crap. Good afternoon, friends. I'd like to welcome you today to What's in Tegan's Storage Locker. It's the show that dares to ask, just what is in my storage locker? The answer today, well, friend, the answer is comics. The answer is always going to be comic books. I grab a fistful of comic books and we sift through them here on camera, hopefully for your enjoyment. There's a little black cat who appears to be resting quite peacefully on a rather uncomfortable table, but far be it from me to criticize the man who has multiple beds around the house and yet chooses to sleep on a hard tabletop. All right. Check out my Patreon if you like these programs. If you want to support me doing them, if you like my writing in general, check out my Patreon. I got new shows on this channel where I'm looking at new comics. They don't seem to be doing any more numbers than the other videos, so I don't know. I'll probably keep doing them because I enjoy doing it, actually. But we're looking at older comics today in a far more discursive format, shall we say. All right, so we looked at an issue of the Tangent Flash, I believe in our very last show that I posted. And I said that was from the first week of Tangent. And they did a second week of Tangent a good year later. And this is from the second year. And this has a couple people who were not involved with the first year of the promotion. This is Mark Millar and Jackson Guice, which is an interesting lineup any year, but especially late 90s at this point. At this point, Mark Millar still had a pretty decent reputation, because especially coming off the period where he was working a lot with Grant Morrison. He wrote, I think, the work of his that I think still holds up as all the work that he did in the 90s. And, you know, later on, it's maybe wise to be a little bit more picky. But Jackson Guice, he is certainly someone who was really, really coming on strong in the late 90s. He worked on this book called Resurrection Man around the time of this. And, you know, it's an obscure book, lasted, I want to say, maybe 2 years. I think it had Abnett and Lanning writing it with Jackson Guice. And it was just absolutely gorgeous. It was an excellent book, and it looked great. And it introduced a bunch of new stuff to the DC universe, some of which was used, some of which wasn't. But the series itself, it just wasn't gonna catch in the late 90s, when it was really hard to sell a new series. Nowadays, if a new series comes out in the last 2 years, my goodness, that is worthy of a celebration. But 2 years was disappointing at the time. World changes. And yet the comic book store is still open, so what does that tell you? So, oh goodness, there you go. We're reading a Mark Millar comic book. The woman caged inside a military facility with in stirrups while doctors in radiation gear attend her. So something messed up is happening. So this is police officer Harvey Dent talking to architect Carter Hall. So they're having fun still with the conceit of Tangent, which is that even after the first week, there were still a bunch of names, just to be given to random characters. Oh, there you go. Man, no. Cereal is deceptive. Cereal tells you that it's your friend, and you bring it home and it is not your friend. That's one to think on. All right. So, yeah, I mean, this just looks gorgeous. Whatever the hell is happening in it. This is just damn fine looking. We need to get, okay, Mark Millar, Jackson Guice. Laverne Kinzierski colors, which with Digital Chameleon as a separator. Comcraft letterers. Yeah, so this is still, tangent based on concepts by Dan Jurgens. Still, my goodness. What? I have no idea what's going on here. Oh, so he did something and he got magic powers? All right, there you go. This dude, he got magic powers, and so we see his career. Ooh. Hey, feeling good. It's it's a fold-in. Okay, I get it. Sort of, but why didn't they just illustrate it like that? Because I saw the CGI Fruitopia ad, and my first thought wasn't, oh, this will be a mad fold-in. And yet, hey, that's exactly what we've got here. Did he turn them down? Did they lowball? Did Fruitopia lowball Al Jaffe? I really want to know. Neither entity is still around to be consulted, unfortunately. Joker. I've never heard of this. By Bob Hall. I mean, I know I saw this ad at the time, but I don't think this book made much of a splash at all. So yeah, it's I don't know. Maybe if I were actually paying attention to the word balloons, I'd like it more or I'd like it less. I don't know. With Mark Millar, really, it could be either. And if I recall, this guy's hook is that he's just got these really intense psionic powers that eventually just completely alienate him from the rest of the human race. So he becomes kind of, I think, the hook was that he becomes like a really unpleasant person. Which, I mean, there you go. That's a Mark Millar concept. Truth, justice, and the American way mean nothing to him. Superman, the dark side. Oh, I think I have this. I want to say I have all 3 issues because it's John Francis Moore, Hilary Barta, inking Kieran Dwyer. So, yeah, you bet I got that. I don't remember anything about it, but yes, I was showing up for Kieran Dwyer and Hilary Barta. John Francis Moore, wouldn't necessarily kick him out of bed for having cold feet, but I've read good comics by him and I read bad comics by him. Oh, the Adventure Comics 80-page giant. I want to say I have this. I want to say I do. I don't know. Maybe I do. Maybe I don't. Maybe I've just seen it enough times and said I should have gotten that. Because these 80-page giants that they did at the end of the 90s, these were good, pound for pound, excellent anthologies. Not just the one where baby Superman gets put in the microwave. So yeah, I don't know what's going on. It looks like we're covering a lot of history here. So hey, if you ever wanted to see Mark Millar, a historical pageant on the subject of race, that looks to be what this is. So let's just, look at Jackson Guice's art here. Looks like they're in Vietnam. All right, so touching, I have to say, a few of the bases, it looks like that Marvel was going to hit with their Blue Marvel character, who originally just came out in a random limited series in the 2000s. And then just no one bought it. But then a number of writers, including Al Ewing, has picked up and pushed the character forward. And now he's just one of the guys. But that was not something that happened overnight. People really had to sell his character hard. And he remains very powerful in Snap. I don't think his card has been changed at all, and it's still, a powerhouse. That means something in this house. Subscribe to all 4 Superman titles and get 4 issues of Superman, the Man of Tomorrow. I think I've already mentioned Superman, the Man of Tomorrow on this show. It was a quarterly series that was printed to cover the tri-monthly gap in the 4 Superman books, so they put out a 5th So there was a Superman book on the stands every week. Because believe it or not, that is exactly, like 100% what their fans told them they wanted, which was Superman every week, piping hot, in their special mug. And, I was there, man. It was great. It worked a lot longer than it should, considering I think even the creators themselves maybe got a little bit tired towards the end of that phase. So, yeah, the second... This is such a nice looking comic. With even, given the writer, yeah, man, Jackson Guice is always going to be worth showing up for. So yeah, I don't know. If I go back at some point and we read the first week of Tangent on the TikTok, which is an intention of mine at some point in the future, maybe we'll get to week 2. I think I have all of week 2 because I really liked week 1. You better believe I got week 2. Now they did a crossover with the Tangent characters. Oh, hello. Man, they put this ad on a lot of comics. I think it probably got a lot of people to drink milk, if my recollection is correct. But, you've already heard, everyone my age, everyone even vaguely around my age, thinks that this was a government psyop. And we grew up to find out. No, it's the milk board. It's these people who make money off of milk telling you that you need to drink milk when, as a point of fact, a lot of people do need milk and use milk. There are a lot of people who should not be encouraged to drink milk. I was one of them. All right, what do we got going here? Okay. Let's just read a random issue of The Punisher from 1994. Oh boy. This is a crossover that doesn't get a lot of attention now because what they did in 1994 was they did a crossover where people thought the Punisher was dead and he got replaced by like 4 different versions. Yeah. Everyone at the time had the same reaction. They're like, really? Okay. I mean, we can't like physically stop you from doing that. But I guess if you are bound and determined on that course of action, they had to do something. They were kind of a little bit out on a ledge because they were running like 3 monthly Punisher books. And, even when John Romita Jr. may have been drawing one of those books, and occasionally they did get good people on the Punisher. Jim Lee's Punisher is like the best Jim Lee. Don't let anyone ever tell you any different. Fantastic looking books. But the fact is, by 1994, the Punisher with 3 titles was like the Wile E. Coyote walking out on the cliff. So, well, okay, let's do a big crossover where Punisher dies, and everyone kind of goes nuts because they think the Punisher is dead, which, if you think about it, okay, that's not the worst hook. But the fact is, they played off the, are we killing the Punisher? And then we're going to replace him with a bunch of other people. Like, that was the angle they took to sell the book. That wasn't like the hidden theme that I've uncovered for you. That was in their promotional material. Like, Frank is on a suicide run. There's a meeting of all the mobs on the East Coast. They're all getting together, I think, to discuss the Punisher, but I'm not sure. And so he goes on a suicide run to blow up the building. And because this was 1994, the idea of the Punisher blowing up the building, I want to say that was kind of a big deal at the time. Not that they would, I don't know. Would they do that? I don't know. Oh man, I gotta say, part of me wants to just dismiss, all the trading cards. But these trading cards, some of them had good artists. Like the Marvel Masterpieces, both series have good art. And they eventually reproduced it at comic book size because it was good art. So, you didn't necessarily feel like you were getting ripped off because you were getting really cool pictures on pieces of cardboard. And of course, that felt like it was worth the money up until the moment it didn't. So, Stephen Grant, Hugh Haynes, Mark McKenna, that's pretty solid team of names that you're going to find in early to mid 90s Punisher. Stephen Grant, he wrote a lot of Punisher stories. He wrote some pretty good Punisher stories too. Mick Gray, John Holdridge, Frank Percy, Joe Andriani, Leah Pelosi, Michael Higgins, Don Daly, and Tom DeFalco. So, this is January 94. Oh yeah, so this is hitting in the winter, like very late 93. Right after they killed the Punisher, and everyone's killing people. They're all killing the main characters. So, they got Michael Golden to do these covers with all of this. In hindsight, there are worse gimmicks, but honestly, I would have maybe just preferred to see the Michael Golden art without the foil. But can't always get what you want in this world. Wow, that is a nice splash page right there. That is an excellent splash page, just straight up. It shows you exactly where you are, exactly what's going on. Building got blown up. The Punisher's probably responsible. Everyone thinks he's dead. And this kicked off a cycle of stories where essentially they blew up the Punisher as they had him up to that point. They had all the superheroes start hunting him. Everyone was saying they do this cycle with the Punisher every so often. They have to take him down because he's gone too far. And this time, he blows up a building in the middle of Manhattan. And even if he planned it so that no one else got hurt, but the mob, at the same time, that's still a building in the middle of Manhattan. That's going to leave a mark. Nothing is bigger than NFL Game Day. With Jack Del Rio, Jay Novacek, Junior Seau, okay, I know that name, Thurman Thomas, Terrell Buckley, I think I've heard that one, Rick Myrer, and Steve Young. Man, I gotta say, I really don't have a lot of attachment or anything to football, but what happened with his arm really was it just took the wind out of an entire state. It really did. Like, we thought this guy, maybe he wasn't going to be Joe, but maybe he'd be something. But then no, that's it. That's all you get. And wow. Anyway, that's the sum total of my real attachment to the San Francisco 49ers. So yeah, everyone's scrambling. There's Microchip before he betrays the Punisher. He betrays the Punisher at some point, which I guess it was kind of inevitable, but at the same time, there's no one else to fill that role in the franchise now. So I guess it's a mob guy or someone, or a politician. Everyone's upset about the Punisher being dead. And these guys, this guy, is this, so long, Castle, you could have been a great man, but you never figured out how things work. Once your reputation is rehabilitated without you around to mess it up. Oh, wow. Okay. So the rich guy, he's going to take advantage of the inevitable rehabilitation. And I think, that's straight up. The story is completely on the nose there. Someone like Frank Castle, within 6 months of being dead, he'd be a hero to a good percentage of the country. That right there, and now this guy's going to swoop in. Oh, that's pretty smart. This is a group of, I want to say, are they police or I think they're like a police paramilitary group who are after the Punisher, which is just, the kind of thing that happens when you're the Punisher, is people form an entire task force to try to take you down. Your tax dollars at work. And wow, this is a nice looking comic book. Look at this. Look at the scene on the... Oh, man. Looking down at this guy on the fire escape, and you can see 2 flights of those stairs. My goodness. I'm sorry. Mr. Hugh Haynes, Mark McKenna, whichever one of you is penciling that. I think that's Hugh Haynes. It looks like Hugh Haynes to me. I was completely unfamiliar with your game. My goodness, yes. My goodness. You know, I think I wasn't in the mood to appreciate this at the time because I was reading Punisher. I read Punisher more months than not. It was a book I bought sometimes. I recognized that sometimes the Punisher was worth reading, even if I didn't really like the Punisher as a character, which I think is, how a number of people regard the character. Like, I don't really like him, but it's possible to do good stories with him. And, that's just one of those things. This guy also, I think, in England... Okay, so this is the English Punisher, who appeared later in the Contest of Champions. Al Ewing, I think it was Al Ewing, brought him back. He gets a little bit of play later on in the 2010s because of that. Now, the other one this character, who I didn't point out, Lynn Michaels, they pushed this character hard. She was Lady Punisher for like 3 issues, and then they never mentioned it again. And I don't understand why, because she was great. I liked her. Lynn Michaels, she was fantastic. They put her in a hole, and they just forgot about her. But straight up, like, if anyone is listening, Lynn Michaels is just right there. Lady Punisher from the 90s, and no one has ever done anything with her. Come on, like, do you need an invitation? Do you not like making money? My goodness, this is a nice looking comic book. Okay, so there he is. It's not even on chapter 3. We don't see him die. We know full well he's not going to die. But at the same time, like, you have to admit, this isn't looking so good for old Frank. This is a classic Spider-Man setup, and he does not have the proportionate strength of a spider. He is just a normal dude, and he looks like he's about to pass out with his head underwater. Bam, there you go. So we just get to see everyone else, reacting to the news of what's going on here. So everyone's just trying to shoot each other. We'll come back to the Boltons. Something or other going on. Bunch of rent-a-cops shooting. Yeah, I don't know. I think those are... Oh, no, it's the police impound yard. Oh, no, those are real police officers. Yeah, okay, they'd be shooting. So, oh, yeah, here's a guy who loves his gun so much that he sleeps right next to them. This is the Punisher. That's the type of folks that he attracts in his circles. So who is this fellow? I don't know. It's just a bunch of, like, kind of similar-looking white guys who just grimace and scream at one another because of events the Punisher has set into motion. No one likes you. No one cares if you die. Your tongue's your best friend in the whole world because it's all that's keeping you alive. Use it. Tell me everything you know about the Punisher. I don't know who that is, though. Oops. Man, look at this. This is good. This is nice looking work. I think at the time, I just thought this story was much ado about absolutely nothing, because it's like a 10-part storyline that basically, just like I said, Frank Castle blows up a building. Everyone thinks he's dead. He almost dies. He doesn't. And everything just goes haywire because people think he's dead. 10 parts? That's the 90s for you. Uh-oh. I got him. The Punisher is dead. Suicide round continues in Punisher War Journal 62. Yeah, so the Punisher was up to 86. Punisher War Journal was up to 62. They got a solid, 7 years out of 3 Punisher titles. For the most part, I think Warzone lasted like 4 years, something like that. So that's Punisher, Punisher War Journal, Punisher Warzone, and Punisher Armory, Punisher Summer Special, Punisher Annuals. They did tons of Punisher graphic novels. They figured out that the Punisher was a popular character to spin off for a lot of original graphic novels and limited series. They published a lot of Punisher books. Oh, Krantz and Jansen. Interesting. And here, I think maybe this was a promo image they used for the series, Wanted Dead or Alive and Deceased. Aliases, The Punisher, Frank Rook, Charles Fort. Oh, here's a early, really early, Derek Robertson, R. Delgado, and W. Duggan? Is that Duggan? Nice looking piece. They put a lot of fun. Sean McManus. Yeah, you just find random pinups in the back of the Punisher. Sometimes from the most interesting people. Like I say, they put good people in the book sometimes. That's the bitch of it. Punishing males. All right. Do I recognize any of these names? I don't recognize any of these names. Suicide Run Scorebox. Punisher 67. Bad Guys 1, and there's a question mark next to it. Vigil, that's those paramilitary cop guys I was pointing out to you. 0 and still counting. A body has been found in the sub-basement of the once magnificent Manhattan Tower. Police deny it's the Punisher, but inside sources say it is. Has New York's most notorious vigilante finally been silenced? Only time will tell. The story continues in the Punisher War Journal 62. Suicide Run continues in Punisher War Journal 62. You just told us that! As the fallout from the Punisher's death continues to rain down havoc, Payback and Lynn Michaels have a lot more to worry about. Vigil wants them to answer a few questions, but our 2 heroes aren't in a talkative mood. Check out the sketch, and for that issue's cover above. And scope out the cover to the Punisher Anniversary magazine. It's another Michael Golden gem. All you Punisher fanatics can't miss this one. It's got everything you ever wanted to know about your favorite vigilante, but we're afraid to ask. Yeah, he wasn't doing a lot of sequential work. But you can't say Michael Golden wasn't a frequent sight in Marvel through the 90s. He did a lot of covers for a lot of books. What are you trying to tell me? Well, I think I beat back the Hun. So, here's something. A Vertigo rarity from, I want to say, 2001. So maybe, snuck out without my paying any attention to it. But my goodness, John Bolton, right up front. That jumps out at you. Sean Phillips, Devin Grayson. There you go. Wow. All 3 names are worth a flip through. Together? Wow, I don't remember this at all. I found this in a bin a while back. I did not see this when it first came out. I don't know even how many issues it is. But my goodness. The funny thing is, I think I had moved on for a while in the late 90s. I was really into Devin Grayson. I read her Catwoman. I certainly read her Black Widow. The problem was, I liked her writing in general. The problem was, I just can't see any interest at all in Nightwing. He is, I don't know, there's just something about Nightwing. When I see him, a part of my brain starts to die or something. He just doesn't interest me. And yet, for some people, he is extraordinarily, punishingly interesting to a degree that I'm sorry I can't go with you there. But she's working with John Bolton and Sean Phillips. John Bolton and Sean Phillips. John Bolton and Sean Phillips. I just feel the need to keep repeating that because one of those names on a comic book assures you a good time. Two of those names on a comic book, friend. You need to go wake up your mother. Tell her what's going on here. She's going to want to know. My goodness. Interesting. Is he working? See, I'm not that familiar with Sean Phillips. I've read a fair amount of his stuff that isn't crime, but you know me and crime stuff. You gotta push me to it. And a lot of his stuff with Ed Brubaker, I can understand how nice it looks, but it just does nothing for me. It just doesn't. But I really like Sean Phillips' art. Is the thing. I just don't. The crime stuff just doesn't speak to me. So we're starting out in the real world here, and I have a feeling, I don't know, I was just going to say though, I don't know if Phillips uses the computer regularly or if he's still a pencil and paper man. I don't know, but it looks like he may be using some computer here because he's credited for the art. John Bolton is credited for the art. There's no separate colorist. There's no, or separator even. Comicraft letterer, incidentally. So yeah, we're in a black and white real world, and I guess we're going to get sucked into the computer, which, makes sense for using the computer here. Do you want to create a new user identity? Okay, so this is early on in the internet being, a real public utility that everyone has access to. And there was a whole genre in the 90s of just person encounters the internet. That was like a movie. The Net with Sandra Bullock. It was a thing, and that was not the first or only movie to have basically the premise of a normal person encounters the internet and everything goes to hell. It's like they were trying to tell us, Sandy Bullock, she was onto something. I hate to say. That whole internet thing was bad news, and she was trying to tell us all along, I guess. And here we go. We've been sucked into some online fantasy game. Oh, what was the big one around the turn of the century? I can't remember. Because I don't think World of Warcraft even existed yet. World of Warcraft became the industry standard that everyone knows what it is. I think it's still going. I haven't heard about it being closed or anything. But it wasn't the big one around the turn of the... I never did it. I never even really knew anyone who did it, so I don't remember off the top of my head. Why don't you remind me in the comments? Interact with me in the comments. Do that. I'm provoking you to do that. So, all right. It's about the experience of a woman going online and choosing a male alter ego in an online video game. Oh, that is an interesting thing to write a story about. My goodness. And it looks to me like John Bolton is working digitally here. If I had to guess. Which, that is interesting. I think you could do a whole feature just on how this book was put together with these artists. Interesting stuff. Oh, we're back in the real world. Oh, wow, that's effective. All right, that's a good page turn right there. That sells the book. Oh, it's an isekai. All right. How can we conduct an unbiased study of the efficiency of Ethanax if you guys are paying for it? I mean, that would be dishonorable. Okay, so basically she basically just loses it at her day job for suggesting that she works with men who have no honor. Yeah, okay, that probably won't go over that well. No, this is great. This is great. I want to track down the rest of this. This looks like something I might have a lot of fun reading on the show. what's it calling it? User, just user. I mean, you know, it's that turn of the millennium, like very early digital. I mean, not early digital. Early digital was like, you know, that Batman graphic novel that's in the pixels from the late 80s. Digital Justice, that's what that one. The fate of all innocence hangs in the balance. Victory to the allies of Vita. Wow, this right here, straight up, like half the anime that comes down the pike is this, like straight up. Someone is absolutely powerless, so suddenly in our real world, so suddenly they're taken somewhere else where what they do matters more, and it seems so much more fulfilling. And this was 2001. So, you know, that was shaping up already to be one of the most, you know, potent fantasies of the 21st century. Oh, wow, there you go. Boom. That works. That page turn really works. When you've got two artists as interesting and as different as these two, using that juxtaposition like that, oh, that's excellent. That is excellent stuff. This looks like a real buried treasure. Uh-oh. Something's happening to Annie. It's nothing. I slammed it on the locker accidentally. Mom's not coming back, is she? So, of course, the online world is so much more attractive. Oh, man. That just seems like so very contemporary, and this is like 2.5 decades. 2.5 decades ago. Oh, and here's again, all seems really like of the moment. The woman with the male avatar has a heterosexual experience in the game. Wow. Oh, shit. That's great. That's great. Why be stuck in the real world when a new life full of warriors, magic, love, and danger is just a stroke of the keyboard away? But when Meg creates a new identity as Sir Guillaume de la Cour, she discovers being a knight in shining armor may be no better than being a damsel in distress. Well, that's terrible, terrible. Ad copy on the back there. But wow, what a treat. I am definitely, how many other issues? 1 of 3. Okay, so there's 2 more issues of this for me to track down. That looks fun. That looks really fun. How much? Oh, we still got time. We still got plenty of time. Okay. Let's read a random issue of New Mutants from a couple years ago. I think I got this in like a $1 bin or something. You know, if I see a tranche of recent X-Men books for $1 each, I'll pick them up and flip through them. I like to see what the books feel like in your hand. Oh, this looks interesting. It's the Krakoa era. More Krakoa. You're probably sick of hearing about Krakoa now. Man, I can't wait for the new books to come out just so people have something else to talk about. Although I do hope Gayla's ready. There's nothing she could ever do that could be good enough for those people. Oh, so Vita, Ayala, writer. Rod Reis, artist. Okay, bam, there you go. That is top shelf creators. VC's Travis Lanham, letterer Tom Millar, design, Martin Simmons, cover. Is he doing this? Oh no, it's the variant. So that's, oh, David Lopez. Okay. It's okay. I've seen worse. Pretty decent. So I guess they're fighting at least unless the variant cover is lying to us completely, they're fighting the Shadow King. I want to say, wasn't the Shadow King, wasn't Emil Fork at least a little bit rehabilitated? I want to say that was what last I saw the status quo was. Oh, so here are the villains. Oh, so they're having to... Are they in the Shadow? This looks like they may be in the Shadow King's world, because they're having to fight everyone. Because there's just about every villain they had in Krakoa. And Danny Moonstar is seeing people die, seeing people get ripped apart. Sim just rips Wolfbane in half. There you go. Reis is doing interesting stuff here. He is someone who has not slowed down. Maybe even slightly underrated Reis. This series, the Walter Mosley and Tom Riley thing, this is an excellent, excellent book. We will be reading this on the TikTok someday. No time soon. I have it. I'll get to it one of these days. It's a very good series. I'm in no hurry, though, because it was just a couple years ago. So I don't know what they're talking about. I have no idea what was happening in the books at this time. Oh, so that looks like just what I was saying. That's Amal Farouk. You aren't my captives. As per your own request, you are my guests. So basically he's saying, I haven't shown you what I want. I have shown you what will be if we continue on this course. My intentions, however, are salvation. In my time in this world, there's been only one constant. Nothing lasts forever. As the oceans wear away mountains, time wears away empires, turning them to dust forgotten by history. Xavier and Magneto feel safe in their belief. Xavier and Magneto feel safe in their belief that they have discovered the secret to an indestructible nation, but they are horribly, narcissistically, foolishly wrong. Well, there you go. If the erstwhile Shadow King can call you out in like issue 22 of the New Mutants, maybe there's a problem with your form of government. Krakoa, like Constantinople, will fall, and mutants will become too soft to survive. And mutants will have become too soft to survive it. They're not our worst fears, they're his. Oh yes, they're a warning. Apocalypse knew the truth of what it takes to endure, but he was weak. He only cared for his kind long enough to get what he wanted, then he abandoned us. Well, if you don't live up to his, standards, yeah, that seems like something Apocalypse would do. But I will not give in so easily. I will remind mutant kind of these harsh truths. I gotta say, I don't want to put the onus on Reis for, trying to draw like Bill Sienkiewicz, because on the one hand, it's kind of obvious, and hundreds of people have done it over the years. But he's doing a pretty decent job. Interesting. The whole book isn't like that. So you can see, okay, he's making a conscious decision here to call back to those other stories that we know. Now, a lot of people can belly up with 2 pages of The Sink. That's pretty decent for just, 2 pages. All right, I'll give you that. All right, so we got one of these text pages. Oh, God, I hope they don't keep doing text pages. If you just stop doing the text pages, I'll give you $5 without even buying a book just to stop doing that. And so we're back in the Shadow King's dream world, and oh, man, look at this. I gotta say, I don't know if I'd want to read a whole book where he just tried to do Bill Sienkiewicz, but just sort of being able to muster Bill Sienkiewicz for a couple pages, not a lot of people can do that. And yet, these are very creative. Very creative use of visual motifs without necessarily being just trying to do a carbon copy of the style, because that wouldn't work. So Karma's still fighting the Brood, and I guess her powers don't do anything to the Brood, which makes sense. I would have been surprised if they did. And there's Magic, everyone's favorite. I think I not my favorite character. Not my favorite character. Amazing Spider-Man 78 dot Bay? Oh, Beyond. See, this is the thing, because I know now, okay, that's Beyond, but Beyond was 3 years ago. Nowadays, that is not the first thing that comes to my mind. I was thinking, wait a minute, do we have a whole, like, raft of discourse about them, like, numbering books after Beyonce, and I missed it? But that's not what that is. It's a nice U piece of the Daughters of the Dragon. Always worth checking out when they show up. Why no one has ever walked in the door with like a real, $1 billion pitch for those guys? It seems like they should be a real obvious sell, straight up. Redhead with a sword, with a, Lady PI with a robot hand. Boom. There you go. How is that not the $1 billion idea? Anyway, you will all learn. Oh, this is an ad from the Donny Cates Hulk, which is what they did after Immortal Hulk. It's the one where he was in a purple jumpsuit with a Weapon X helmet on. It was I didn't read it. I flipped through parts of it. Geico, man. Thank you, Geico. Thank you. We need people like you to help the comics industry. There we go. Eco-drive, purposeful power. What else? Oh, we still got time. We got time for something else here. All right. Here's a twofer. Since we just flipped through that one Devin Grayson book that surprisingly ended up being really good just on a flip through. I don't know why I should say surprising, but it's not a book anyone ever talks about. And yet, look at who's drawing it. So here's another Devin Grayson number from 1998, when she was just coming up in the ranks, with Yvel Guichet, penciler, Robert Campanella, inker, James Sinclair, colorist, Albert de Guzman, letterer. So this is from late 90s, Batman. They were still under the benign tutelage of Denny O'Neil, but his regime was starting to maybe look a little bit long in the tooth. And as it stood, there was going to be a few years of, frankly, just like straight up chaos after Denny O'Neil leaves. I think that's, a kind way of putting the early 2000s Batman period. But they still know what they're doing enough to get up to the turn of the century, and No Man's Land, which I've said before, is a story I enjoyed a great deal, and then the ending of it was just terrible. It got me to stop buying Batman for years. So this was Batman Annual 22 from 1998. The theme this year was ghosts, which, at a certain point, I think they kind of just gave up. Because, Legends of the Dead Earth was a weird theme that no one really seemed to get. Elseworlds was really hit or miss. Year One was hit or miss. So, okay, let's do ghosts. And so it was just a ghost story. Everyone gets to do a ghost story in 1998, which, that's what they did. And then I think the year after this was Jail Ape, which was the monkey themed. And I bought all of those because they had Art Adams covers with the heroes as apes, except for Batman, because he, I think, escaped the ape ray. I think that's what that one was. I think that's what that plot was. Anyway, all right. Covered by Bernie Wrightson. This was around the same time he did the Batman Aliens, the excellent Batman Aliens, which we read on the TikTok, like a month and a half ago. One of my very favorite Bernie Wrightson stories, and just a really great Batman story. Even though he's fighting the aliens, barely surviving against the aliens, as you could imagine. Coca-Cola, that's just, why, I don't get it. That's just the word grab. Man. font in the 90s. It was out of control. Somebody help me, Batman's trying to kill my baby. Okay, that's a good way to start a story. Yeah. See, there was a reason why I liked early Devin Grayson. She knew how to start a comic book. Coloring comes out a bit murky here. I think, honestly, the book would have benefited from a bit of a brighter palette, but I think that's your... James Sinclair, this must have been early digital work, because this is the same illness that infests the cliffhanger books, which are otherwise, some of them are just straight up excellent. Like Danger Girl is an excellent book. Crimson is an interesting book. Steampunk is a terrible book, but they all look good. And The Killering is the Achilles heel because they spent a lot of money on really fancy coloring that just ended up printing too dark on the page. And it was emblematic of what was going on all across the industry, where some of the best artists and some very mediocre artists were just being kind of hung out to dry by growing pains. Because I'm not going to say that everything was colored poorly in the period. No, not by any means. But it was also frequent to see a book like this, which looks like it's got a lot of very interesting line work from Yvel Guichet that I'm having trouble making out because it's printed so darkly. And if I'm reading a Batman book, you know I want to look at that line work. I want to see all the little scratches that he has made on the page. Because this is an interesting book. Not the type of style that you'd maybe see on the monthly Batman book. Taking some risks here. Honestly, this looks a little bit like straight up you do not usually see, like Edward Gorey in Batman, and that this looks sort of like this guy looked at some Edward Gorey at some point. Interesting. Wow. Nice looking book. Uh-oh, it's that guy. Oh, is this the Ghost? Oh, I get it. Okay, so he's fighting. This is 1998, did I say? Yeah, 98. So this is like 4 years in the past, so already this is a unpleasant ghost. That armor has been hijacked by... Oh, Abattoir, that's right. I think Abattoir, was he actually killed? Yes, he was the guy that Batman killed when it was Jean-Paul Vallée under the mask. Which, you know, I'm not going to get too worked up over that one. The Batman villains that are just stone killers are the worst ones. It's like Mr. Zsasz. I hate Mr. Zsasz. Terrible. Terrible villain. What can you do? What kind of a story can you do with a villain whose gimmick is killer? Nothing. They're really just, they tear through everything I like about reading a Batman story. Like, no, Batman just shouldn't be dealing with people who are just straight up serial killers. Send them to fight the Punisher. They fit the milieu. Punisher could stand to fight more serial killers. I always thought that was kind of an underexploited angle in the character. Small Soldier. I remember that being better than everyone expected, but still very clearly a Gremlins riff, you know, by the people who did the Gremlins, but, you know, still. You can see they're trying to do interesting things with these colors. These are interesting gradients. But man, gradients, we're going to get sick of gradients really quickly as the 90s go on. And nowadays, I think harsh gradients have come to be identified with a certain era of comic books, to the degree that you see it now, like specifically to spoof, you know, late 90s, early 2000s, hypercolor. See, interesting stuff. You can really see the pen strokes. And is this, my goodness, this almost looks like he may be using a big, jagged felt-tip pen for that. You don't see that on the page very often, but it's an interesting effect. That figure really sticks out. So, you can't really see it that well because of the printing. But it's very interesting. It looks like this guy is barely a doodle on the page. He must think you're some kind of hologram, because I don't think he would have intentionally left me alone here with a ghost. Honestly, I don't know. Batman's he's not a good person sometimes. He puts Robin in situations that you probably shouldn't put a minor in. But, See, I think that this would really do well with some brighter coloring. Nothing pops on this page. Nothing pops at all. So Robin has to fight the ghost. Batman's still fighting Abattoir and Azrael, Batman's costume. So now he has to get everyone out of the building because there's a fire. That's Batman's, first priority. What was all that about? Getting you off a burning balcony. Wait, why did he ask? These are all these books about ghosts and a book that just says Doctor Who. Like, you're going to have to be more specific. They literally put out a paperback for every story in the original British run of the show. Then they kept making paperbacks. Now they still make Doctor Who books, so you're going to have to specify which of the hundreds of Doctor Who books exist. Interesting pen work, though. Robert Campanella's doing, bringing some interesting lines to the page here. Just being let down at every turn by this bizarro coloring. We've read that on this channel before, so I guess this is from that same tranche of books. Batman, Other Realms, Beyond the Towers of Gotham City, Beyond the Here and Now. 2 lushly illustrated Legends of the Dark Knight in 1 fantastic collected edition. Destiny by Mark Neese and Bo Hampton. The Sleeping by Scott Hampton. Oh, okay, so cover by Bo and Scott Hampton. I guess if you're going to put 2 artists together, you probably put Bo and Scott Hampton together under one cover there. That makes sense. Oh, so he has to deliver a baby over a pit of molten metal. Well, that's a Batman thing to do right there. He cuts the cord with a batarang. Oh my goodness. Batman cuts the cord with a batarang. That alone, that makes it interesting. Bet you didn't think you were going to see that when you woke up today. So good on you, Devin Grayson. That's not something you see every day. Oh, we didn't go back to that bullpen bulletins. We're going to go back to that bullpen bulletins. Oh, here's more of the Dome. Dave Gibbons' The Dome. He did a couple books of The Dome. And you're thinking, wait a minute, isn't The Dome Stephen King? Like, yeah, Stephen King came along like 10 years later and he just did his own dome. Like, Dave Gibbons has a dome and Stephen King has a dome, and it looks like they're both about giant domes. Like, there you go. Who is the Martian Manhunter? This is an excellent series. John Ostrander and Tom Mandrake. Just about the best only real Martian Manhunter ongoing that anyone's ever tried that stuck around for any period. Oh, and here's all of the second week of the Tangent books. So, yeah, this must have been from the same pile. They did Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman because they pointedly didn't do these 3 the first time around. JLA, which is a bunch of the characters. They did another week of The Flash, but it did not have the same art team. They did another Tales of the Green Lantern, and they did another Nightwing, and Power Girl, and another Joker book, Joker's Wild, who is kind of, Harley Quinn, avant Lilette in some regards, even though Harley Quinn already existed, but Harley Quinn is the merry, largely benign force for good-ish. Didn't really exist yet. So they're advertising Heroes Convention in Charlotte. Graduating students from the Joe Kubert Art School. Class of 98, okay. DC will have a booth at Heroes Con in Charlotte. With summer well underway, that means the DC Bullets softball team. God, always with the DC Bullets. Do they still, do the DC Bullets still play? Because I don't know. They told us about the DC Bullets and the Marvel team, whatever the Marvel team was called. They told us about it for years, and then they stopped telling us about the adventures of they don't live in the same city. They don't live in the same city. Oh. I feel like 15 years old or just saying that, like, oh man, they haven't lived in the same city for a long time. Oh God. So yeah, Pinky and the Brain was up to 26. Hey, Pinky and the Brain, that book had legs. Like, Pinky and the Brain should still be published. Power of Shazam was up to 42. We haven't looked at much Power of Shazam on this show. I should grab some. I bought the whole run. I love that book. Just about my favorite iteration of that character after, the C.C. Beck original, obviously. Superman for All Seasons. That's an actual Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale book that I do really like. It's really obvious. It's just a story about Superman's relationship with his dad, but he doesn't die in a tornado as opposed to some other stories I could mention. Chronos 7. Oh, Chronos was great. Oh, man. I said we were going to go back, didn't we? I did, didn't I? Because we didn't go back to that Bullpen Bulletins, and I said I would. Sometimes I just forget to go back, but I actually said I was going to go back, so I don't want you to think I'm lying at you. Starting off with a Rick Parker panel in the center here. He was doing these panels for a good couple years. Mark's Remarks in place of the Stan Soapbox. Just a brief list of some of the many things I'm personally thankful for. The fact that I managed to make my childhood hobby my adult profession, thus indefinitely delaying the need to grow up. Number 2, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. Number 3, the opportunity to work with some of the funniest, most creative, gosh darn nicest folks I could ever ask to be associated with. The chance to write some of the coolest superheroes ever invented by human minds. A beautiful wife who reads everything I write. Well, wow. The second part of that's something. That is something right there. And a beautiful daughter who reads nothing I write. I don't encourage her. All the scientific and technological advances made in my lifetime, including the 3 that affect me most. The PC, the VCR, and the answering machine. Being in the industry during a very interesting time. Well, Tom DeFalco, the best boss in the business, any business. Living in America, the land of opportunity. Being the age I am, and thus having experienced America's greatest cultural revolutions. And the sad thing is he wrote that in 1994. And you can look back and say, all right, maybe I don't agree with it objectively, but straight up, that was an age to live through right there. My readers. Oh, see, now that's why we love the guy. He just walked around saying stuff like that on the norm. Here at Bullpen Central, we're very thankful for national holidays like Thanksgiving. So they're going down and everyone's giving what they're thankful for. New Doctor Strange scripter David Quinn is magically thankful for jaded Marvel readers who think everything's been done and they've seen it all because they're the perfect challenge. My job is to amuse, bewilder, and astonish. And to be frank, Marvel gets a little bit of credit for a time when, the company wasn't doing well in some ways. They were forward-thinking enough to give work to David Quinn when that's not necessarily some, Faust is not necessarily something that could have been on Marvel's radar, and yet they thought, oh, let's give this guy Doctor Strange for a few years. Gary Hallgren. Gary Hallgren, I think I pointed out before, he did this Mort the Dead Teenager book. He was one of the Air Pirates. He was an underground cartoonist who for years, I don't know if he still does, but he might still do, Slylock Fox. Actually have had beer with him a few times. Lee Weeks, currently taking all bets on his Gambit limited series, has fond wishes for one of his old characters. Said Lee, I'm thankful Daredevil finally got some new clothes. Did he really say that? I don't know. Editor Sarah Mossoff, I'm thankful for a paycheck every 2 weeks. New Spirits of Vengeance penciler Henry Martinez is thankful that I got Spirits of Vengeance. Rick Suchi filling in his penciler for 3 issues on William Shatner's Tech World. Tech World lasted 2 years. 2 years they got out of William Shatner's Tech World. I'm thankful just to have been given a chance. No other company would give me a shot. New G.I. Joe penciler Jesse D. Orozco said, I'm thankful that this year, instead of sitting in school thinking about drawing Marvel comics, now I'm drawing them. Stephen Platt had a patriotic response. I'm thankful that you can ask a question like that in this country and not be shot for it. Okay. Mike Harris, who provided the art for this month's issue of What If the Punisher Became an Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., is another true American. Stated Mike, I'm thankful for the collapse of communism in the world and the upcoming change in New York City government. Any relationship between the two may or may not be coincidental. Biker Mice from Mars co-writer Rick Unger is thankful for the excessive sales of Biker Mice Edition 1 because that means I can keep doing them. Biker Mice didn't last too long. That did not last for that long. Mindy Newell is grateful she's editing the one-shot Marvel NFL Pro Action magazine because I'm such a rabid football fan. The 64-page glossy magazine ships in December, which, as Mindy noted, is just in time for the playoffs and the Super Bowl. Of course. Highlights of the magazine include training tips, locker room visits, and a 12-page X-Men story in which Wolverine gets fighting tips from LA Raiders defensive end Howie Long. Oh, wow. Oh, that seems interesting. Wonder if that's ever been reprinted anywhere. They could put together a thick paperback of the Super Pro stories with, Wolverine meets Howie Long in it. Chris Meriden is thankful that Nova has been brought back from the 70s so that I could draw his first issue. Well, there you go. Man, that is a color to print black against. I can sort of read. Yeah, they're still going strong with the Barkerverse books. Bratz Bazaar, I think that was from the very last, go of Epic Comics, whatever that was. G.I. Joe still had a year. This is 144. I think 156. I want to say 155 or 156 is the last Joe of that run. It kept going, and it's up to 307 now. Hellhound 2 of 4. I think maybe that was another Epic, or that was Marvel UK at this point. I don't know. They were just putting out so much stuff. In 1994, Mort the Dead Teenager, Punisher Holiday Special number 2, covered by Sinkovich. Spider-Man 42. This is the 3 issues Jay Lee did of Spider-Man, which, like every Jay Lee from this period, it's interesting stuff. If you like, the Wildcats trilogy, Jay Lee, it's pretty much that same Jay Lee. Morbius, still on Morbius. Spider-Man versus Dracula. This is from that wonderful series of Tomb of Dracula reprints that they were putting out on the newsstand around this time. I'm thirsty. I want to go drink a soda pop. That's a good show. That's a good show's worth of books. So, have a wonderful day. Check out the other videos on this channel. I'm putting up videos for new comics now. They're called Hey Tegan, What's in the Bag? I put up daily comic book reviews on Instagram and TikTok. I have a podcast with Claire Napier where we talk about Witchblade, Top Cow Comics, all that good stuff. You can find my work periodically at the Comics Journal. I got a piece about Rick Aldergott up right now, online. What else? I can't think of anything. Have a wonderful day. Please, take care of yourself. Take care of the world. Be kind to animals and small children. And just be kind. Do well. All that good stuff that I usually tell you. Just whatever I usually tell you. I can't remember it all.